Welcome back to another episode of Reliability BoomBox. Thank you everyone for joining us. Proudly brought to you by Reliability Extranet group of companies. Welcome back, Seven. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Dane. Great to be here.
We were chatting a little offline before about a few different things, and I had an idea sparked my mind the other day, or actually just a little earlier this afternoon. But I thought we'd actually do a little 5-part series. And we'd talk about reliability engineering. And we know that you've written an awesome little book there called The 5 Habits of an Extraordinary Reliability Engineer, which we know you are. We know there's a lot of people out there. And I want to talk about those 5 steps. So we'll start in a minute with a bit of a summary. But I'm going to throw a few extra little questions to you around that. And we'll sort of want to bring it into how that benefits the rest of the business. Because I think from my experience, you go to certain places and it's like, oh, it's a reliability engineer. Oh, what are they good for? Or, oh, yeah, okay, he just kind of does that. And yeah, we've talked about it before. The reliability engineer becomes a pain in the ass to the maintenance manager and pain in the ass to the production. And it's like, oh, what are you doing? You get to stop and stuff again. So
yes. It's interesting, Dane, that you mentioned that. I say to people I'm a reliability engineer, and most people like that are not in heavy industrial space, right, don't even know what that is. What sort of engineer are you? Hold on. I know you're an engineer, but what's a reliability engineer do? Right?
Seven, I think I said that to you when we first met at uni.
What does a reliability engineer do? It's niche, isn't it? It's a specialist role, and it's not, for every sort of 10 engineers, you might have one reliability engineer in the heavy industrial space. And if it's not in heavy industrial, it's not really specialized. It's basically a given for other engineers to understand reliability as a part of their day-to-day job. Yeah, or the maintenance people do it.
Yes. Which leads me to where I got sparked the idea from.
Yeah,
is I had a conversation with some clients of ours the other day, and they were struggling to fulfill their roles and realised that they're actually now more asset manager roles, but they're still being titled reliability engineers, and they're not getting the time to do the reliability stuff. And no one in the organisation really knows what they should have been doing as the reliability side of things. So I wanted to get into that. I wanted to dive into, the 5 habits of an extraordinary reliability engineer.
Yep.
And sort of break down how that benefits, where that can fit, and give a real explanation of it. So, first up, give us the shortened version of the 5 little steps of an extraordinary reliability engineer.
Yeah. So there's habit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So habit 1 is identify. Habit 2 is understand. Habit 3 is question. Habit 4 is decide with data. And habit number 5, let's get my little hashies in here. Habit number 5 is facilitate to implement. And you want to be spend most of your time here in habit 5, right? But all of those lead to that habit. Okay?
Yep.
All of those lead to that habit, right? So if I go, I'll get my little laser pointer thing here. So if I go identify, if I draw on that, it stays there. So if I go identify, what that means is that you as a reliability engineer, one of the habits is that you're constantly identifying areas of improvement or problems. Okay?
Yeah.
That's just in your DNA. That's what you do, is you're constantly identifying things to improve. Okay? Number 2, understand, is all about understanding why those problems are occurring and having the skill set to be able to solve those problems. Okay, so because you understand them, you solve them. Right. Habit 3 is all around. Oh, lost me a little point thing. Habit 3 is all about questioning what you're doing. Okay, and in the book I give a framework on how a machine should run that I learnt from a lovely guy called Wayne Bissett. And if you don't have your machines running to this framework, you basically won't have a reliable organisation. Okay, right. So question what you do. Decide with data is habit number 4. And what that is all about is, and I had this conversation actually yesterday, is that we as reliability engineers and, essentially engineers in general in the Australian term of it, right? We don't actually spin spanners or wrenches, sorry, for our international people. We don't spin spanners or turn wrenches, okay? So our commodity or the thing that we use, okay, to get people to say yes is data, okay? Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to decide with data. And again, along those similar sort of lines, facilitate to implement, okay?
Yeah.
So we are, as reliability engineers, the glue in getting things done. We're the enablers, not necessarily the doers.
Mm-hmm.
We support the people that do, okay, as an engineer supports his clients. So we're in this similar sort of thing where we facilitate to implement. But if you're an on-site reliability engineer, your stakeholders are obviously management, the technical specialists, and the people spinning the spanners, the tradesmen or the craftsmen doing the work.
Yep.
So we need to be able to facilitate action with all of those people.
Yeah. Awesome. So I love the framework. I love the book and the way it's been put together and the simplicity of it and the information that you got that comes behind it. I think that's really, really important. And for me, when I first jumped in the role as a reliability engineer, it was all new to me, and I had a little project that I had to sort through, but I did start to witness all these things. And it was interesting because I had your book and I just started following the process from your book. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I see why this works, and starting to, identify what the issue was, understand the issue, ask the questions of the right people. And I think the questions one is probably one of my favorite sections and my favorite one, because I think it's really important that we do ask the critical questions and we ask questions of both sides, which relates highly to the facilitating to implement. Now, when you're in such a role, it's very important that you ask the questions of, as you mentioned before, the technical team.
Yes.
The technicians that are spinning the wrenches or twisting the pliers or spinning the screwdrivers, however you need to look at it. Electrician.
Spanners. I'm mechanical. We use spanners. Which is wrenches for everyone else.
Wrenches for everyone else.
That's an Australian thing.
Yeah. But then you also have to articulate that.
Yes.
It's like you're the little piece in the middle. And I think this is why I actually really enjoyed my time doing that, because I always like talking to management, understanding and identifying what the problem or concern they had was, taking the time to understand it, then going and asking the questions of the technical team and the maintenance team and the production team on how that might affect them, because they're important too, and taking the time to ask the questions, collecting all that data, as you pointed out, and then making a decision and then facilitating it to implement. So really engaging everyone in the implementation process.
Yeah.
And I can see how if we educate engineers and reliability engineers to do this in the sense, it's very much it's a very inclusive role. It's a very holistic role. Like you said, like you're facilitating to implement. You're asking the questions of both parties. You're in the middle. You're kind of the glue in the sandwich. Because often in organisations, and I think you and I both sat in them, been in them, worked with them from time to time, we see that the technicians are here. Let's go here. We're going a lateral line, and the management's over here. And then you have an engineer maybe in the middle in some environments that's looking after a whole bunch of assets, a whole bunch of other bits and pieces, and trying to make sure the maintenance schedules are all on place. But if for whatever reason there's nothing there to stick them together, it doesn't quite work.
Yes. Yep. I was actually going to draw a picture of something like this, Dane. As you're talking, this is what goes in my head. Yeah. I think in pictures, and then I draw them.
Fine.
So you have your management up the top here, right?
Yeah.
You might have your piece of plant in the middle here. So your management's overseeing here. You got your plant in the middle.
Yeah.
You've got your people that actually work on the plant. I'm going to say your technicians, as you said. I'll draw them here.
Yep.
And then you've got your specialists over here, or your scientists, as I call them in the book.
Yep.
Right, sitting over here, and they're all relying. There's a good word. Relying on this piece of plant. Okay. And if I was to draw where we sit, right? Now, that's the bottom just there, right? Yep. That's the bottom just there. We actually sit. I'm actually going to draw it as a colour. Right in there.
Yeah.
Where we have to interact with all of these different people involved in the plant, whether they're managing the plant, fixing the plant. So there's fixing, right? And these guys here are, supporting, if you want to call it that. And essentially we've got to coordinate all of the activity between each of these different stakeholders. There's a good word. Stakeholders. And obviously a lot of organisations rely upon the plant to produce products. So, while this is all happening, we're still making our products and we're trying to do that for the lowest unit cost possible. Okay. I'd actually argue a little bit against that, in that we should be trying to get the lowest unit cost when we're finished with the plant.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Anyway, we'll digress.
So let's talk about. I think that's a perfect picture. I think that's a really good picture of where reliability engineering sort of sits. And like I said at the beginning, I want to start to create over this time, over the next 5 podcasts or so, that understanding of the reliability engineer's role, how it supports and benefits the other people in the team.
Yeah.
So obviously we'll dive a lot into that, and that will really be the clincher in the facilitating to implement, and probably in the questioning in my mind. But let's talk about identifying. Let's talk about identifying the problem. So give us a little synopsis of what you're talking about in the book for those that may not have read it. If you can just give us a little bit of a sort of a synopsis, and then I'm sure I'll come up with some questions about it there. I've already got a couple.
Right. So it's all about continually identifying problems, and what I recommend is that as a team, we get together on a routine basis to actually talk about those problems that have been identified. Okay. So us as a reliability engineer or reliability person should facilitate that meeting. In fact, I've been known to do all the data analysis as well, have it forward, decide with data. Okay, so we facilitate this process in the organisation from a reliability point of view, and people will probably be saying, hold on, that sounds like a production engineer. Well, you'd be close. You'd be absolutely close. Right, so the production engineer focuses on the actual production process, and reliability engineers actually focus more on the plant itself. Okay, so the production engineers use the plant to produce product, and there's a process around that, and they control the process. That process may well be driven by the plant. Well, it normally is because we've only got these 2 hands. We have to build tools to make things. And so, we've got that dependency. If a production engineer is involved, we work with the production engineers. Now, if I was to put that model in an OEE point of view, so OEE, overall equipment effectiveness, is equal to availability times rate times quality. So us as reliability engineers work in the availability zone. The production engineers work typically in this zone. Okay, there is a crossover. There is a crossover because a reliability problem can cause a loss of rate. Okay, so there's like a crossover sort of here, if you want to call it that. That's another neat drawing, isn't it? There's another neat drawing. Some people would probably argue that we could cause a quality issue as well. Yeah, if the machine's not working properly, you could be having a whole heap of rejection. Yep. So that's where we sit when it comes to production and the relationship with production. Having said that, I've seen production engineers actually be reliability engineers as well. Righto. I've seen mechanical engineers be reliability engineers. I've seen maintenance managers be reliability engineers. Okay. So by default, most organisations, this is what I've noticed in Australia, if you haven't got a reliability engineer on staff, it's the maintenance manager. Or he can delegate. But essentially getting back to identify it, now I'm talking about who's identifying problems. Who's identifying your problems. Righto. So in all of those roles that I mentioned, the maintenance manager, the production engineer, mechanical engineers and whatnot, in each of those roles, there's a reliability piece because we need reliable equipment to actually do what we do. And it doesn't have to be the reliability engineer. If there isn't one, it's got to be someone else. But the key point is that you actually have a process in place where you continually identify problems. Okay? You have a process in place where you continually identify problems. And there's two types of problems, right? One, big bangs. Okay, so we all know about the big bangs that get all the attention. The plant's broke, no production. Everyone's running around with their hair on fire. And as you can see, I haven't got a lot of hair left.
Too many big bangs.
Too many big bangs. Well, all the knowledge has gone into that book now. And you can see how much there is. And so there's the big bangs and then there's chronic issues. So what I talk about is what in the book, what that is, what they are, and you should be constantly identifying those things because the chronic issues, if you don't address the chronic issues, they'll lead into a big thing and it's only a matter of time. So while they're small, it's better for them to address it whilst it's small.
Awesome.
So that process of identifying should be communicated with the team on a routine basis. So the results of that process, so there's a process in itself of identifying what the problems are. You're going to need to use some data to do that. And all of these different people that are all about managing the plant need to be involved in that process because out of that process, you make a decision, right, to which ones you're going to understand.
Yes. So that led me into my memory bank. And again, I think the client that that I spoke to the other day is the one that's brought all this to my mind. Identifying the problem as such. Now, some people may say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in going on my little journey, my little story. But some people may say that in smaller organizations or smaller engineering firms and so forth, or production lines, where the maintenance manager or the production manager is also the reliability engineer. They've got so many other problems that it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming.
Yes.
It can be very overwhelming into where to start. It's like walking into your house when the kids have been home on their own for 5 hours and completely gone nuts, and you're like, where do I start with tidying up, because they've gone out and I can't strangle them into doing it just yet. But, it can sometimes be overwhelming.
Yes.
And I think by using some data and identifying potential areas, and like you said, then involving those other key stakeholders
I'll go
in
back to that
the journey.
Yep.
Yeah. So involving the technicians, involving the scientists and the management team they can help you to identify which path to focus on first, because we can't do everything, and we can't do everything at once. And there's two things that I've witnessed in business, in engineering, in production lines, is that people either get overwhelmed and do nothing, or they get overwhelmed and then do a lot at the wrong thing.
Yep.
They focus too much on the thing that isn't most important to the business. They might think on what they believe is most important, or it might be something that they know would help, though it might not be the most important thing for the overall business.
Yes.
So, to me, part of that identifying process, it is very important that we do start to build that communication and that going back and forth with the right parties.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to use the word process.
Yeah.
It's a process.
It is.
It's a process, and it's replicable. It's replicable. So replicable. Yeah.
And you do it time and time again. And I remember you and I were both working together at a company to support and build a reliability framework. Build a reliability mindset, as one of your good friends once laid out to me in a little meeting I had with him a couple of weeks ago. He's working with an organisation up here that we're talking with and that we work with as well. And he's trying to build a reliability mindset about the business. He's a CEO. He comes from a reliability background, and he understands the critical importance of it. So then it's about getting your reliability engineer, or whoever's fitting that role, whoever's that little yellow bit of highlighted section focusing on the plan.
In the center, yep.
It's really important that he has good communication skills and can ask the right questions and talk to management, technicians, and scientists.
Yeah. So I call it the hard side and the soft side of reliability. The hard side is all the technical numbers, all that sort of stuff. The soft side is the communications piece.
Yeah.
This is what you're just talking about. To me, that's what's going through my head. There's two. So I'll draw another picture here. There's like the classic seesaw. Yeah. There's the hard side, which is like the academic stuff that you learn at university, all the tools and techniques and numbers and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the soft side.
Yeah. And like you've got them there, I love that you put them on a scale, because they are both very important. Now, I would certainly say that my skill set is more on the soft side of things. I understand the hard side. That takes work for me. Right?
Yes.
But the soft side of things and the communicating is easier.
Yes.
So, in my experience, I work on communicating to collect and identify the problem.
Yep.
More so, and then I collect the data, and then I spend a bit of time working really hard on the hard side.
Yes. And I'm just gonna add to that. In my experience, the people that are good at the soft side succeed as reliability engineers.
There you go.
In my experience,
I would have made a really good one once upon a time.
The guys with the hard side, right, because they're good at the hard side, tend to forget about the soft side, the communications and stuff like that, because this is where their interest is. However, However, doing the numbers doesn't deliver a result. Making a change delivers a result. Okay?
Yes.
Deliver it. Okay? Until you deliver a result, i.e., you make a change, and you're either changing the plant, the process, or the people. And you notice I ordered it. The plant is highly technical. The process is can be technical, but it also is driven by the people.
Yep.
So this is like if you're hard to soft.
Hardness, yep. Medium to soft, yep.
Yeah. Right. So what I've found is that the people that concentrate, like the seesaw's bent one way, if the seesaw's going down this way, I find that they don't succeed as a reliability engineer, or you know, I've seen highly technical guys that are really good at numbers, right, be sat in the corner providing the people that are really good at the soft side the information. I've seen that happen too, right, on large teams. But in the cut a long story short, you need both.
Yeah, you do
need both.
And it is a balance, and it is certainly understanding where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I too, and again, a scenario for you and I that you and I were both involved in, we saw in a particular area, the reliability role was a new thing for this organization. They really wanted to set someone aside to give that their full responsibility so they weren't distracted by maintenance and other things. And the people there were very technical.
Yes.
They were very, very technical. And they were very hesitant on the soft side. So when we got them to, okay, you guys have done all the data analysis and you've identified, because we're talking about identifying these potential problems, they wanted to run with it. They wanted to just go and start fixing those problems.
Yes.
What we reminded them of and what we trained them in doing was the soft side, and actually speaking to the other guys and getting the other members on board with what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can put a work order on the system, but if people don't understand what that work order is all about, will it get done? No. Will it get prioritised? No. Yep. And if I remember rightly, and if it's the people that I'm thinking that you're talking about, you know, this is totally unscripted. I think in that conversation we had with those two was that I think we need to go to speak to this person.
Yes.
I think we had that conversation. Yeah, right. I know who we're talking about now. We need to actually get out and speak to this person. Where is his office?
Where's his office?
And we got up. We didn't know him. Let's go.
And they're like,
And then when we spoke to that person, he really appreciated the heads up that we had found that particular issue, and we were going to call upon him for some answers. I think if I'm remembering the right conversation,
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And you even reminded me a part of it.
Yeah. And he, if I remember rightly, this particular person was a highly technical person. Yeah. And he actually appreciated the time and the heads up that he was about to be put on the spot because we had discovered something.
Yes. And that's one of the important things, is when you do identify a potential problem, and it comes down to that soft side and that soft element. You do go and speak to the people that are involved.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, that we have engineers, and don't get me wrong, I've worked with a lot of engineers, and we're all different. You know, like I've said, I've owned the fact that the hard side, the technical, detailed side for me isn't always my jam. You know, mine's the soft side. I'm more kinesthetic. I feel into things. I understand, but I respect the details. And if we can then, like we get people that are very technical, very detailed, if you put them in a situation where you drag them into a meeting and you get told that there's a problem and it's with your side of things, they're going to be upset.
Defensive.
And they're going to get defensive. And they're going to say, no, you don't know what I'm on. You don't know what's going on, and you're going to mirror it. And they're not going to be on your side. So even though you've identified a problem, and I will also probably point out, I've experienced some people that are very good at the hard side. We'll just call it the hard and soft side for it.
Hard side. It's like the dark side.
The dark side.
Out of Star Wars, there's the hard side and the soft side.
People that are very good at the hard side, that would also deliver an issue very bluntly themselves.
Yes.
They're also the ones that go on, well, you did this. It's like, oh, hang on. But if you come into a sense of giving them person a heads up, and like this example that you're talking about, this guy was very technical. You've gone to him and said, hey, in identifying some potential problems, we've identified this to be a key problem.
Yep.
We believe this is something that we need to focus on. We believe you have some information that may help us in moving forward. And we want to work with you on this. Give them a chance to comment, answer, yep, agree. Okay, we're going to bring this up at our meeting, at our weekly forum, at our monthly forum, at our whatever it is. Defect
elimination meeting, continuous improvement meeting, workshop, forum.
Whatever it is. And we're going to get the team to decide that we wanted you to know that this is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
That gives them the time and space to step back, to breathe and go, oh, okay, all right, it's not a personal attack. It's not, mudslinging festival. It's just, okay, this is a fact. And I've got some information to support that. And the guys have come to me and we can all work together as a team.
Yep.
All of a sudden you're playing as a team and you're working in that space.
Yes.
And the same could be with production. So if you wanted to tie that across to, the production guys, like if it's, identifying a failure on a fan or something that's going to slow production down in the processing plant or on a motor, you can actually go to the production team and say, this is a potential problem that's coming up. We're going to work to fix it, but we want to know what you've got to share about that.
Yep.
Then you're giving them a heads up on the problem.
Everyone talks about, like in the heavy industrial space, usually, there's these planned windows of opportunity of when the plant's going to go down, right?
Yeah.
And you've probably been on the receiving end of something like this where, it's hard. You can't change these dates.
Yep.
You can't move these things around because of X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. Talk to the right people. Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of flexibility there. We can move this sort of over here. We can have a little one here, and then we can go into the big one, and we can shorten this one up. It's all about having the conversation. Hey, this is the need, right? Or this is the problem. This is the need. What can we do about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And when we do go in, and I think we're going to segue into the next habit of yours, which is understand, right? Which I think we'll talk a little bit more about next week. But like you said, once you've identified the problem, and in this situation, like you said, there's a short window, but I've seen it too many times. Like the reliability engineer goes, we need to do this maintenance. It needs to be done in the next window. And it's like, okay, well, here's your window. No, I need it done sooner. Otherwise, it's going to fail. Well, that's your window.
Yeah.
And discussion. It's like, and you get people going, Arr. Whereas if you went in more on the softer side and you're able to actually say, hey, there's a potential failure on this piece of equipment. What do you know about it? What windows do we have? Because we need to look into it a little bit further. We need to understand and actually do some work. Or what options do we have around getting to it?
Yep. What options? Love
and
it.
they're like, oh, well, this, like, okay. And if you continue to understand, how the machine works, what the machine does, what area it supports, and just by asking those questions, I certainly found in my experience, I had very similar experience. And as you said that, it reminded me, we had to change out the side I was on some variable speed drives. And certain windows, same thing. We were given this window. No, you got 24 hours. We need a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Like, technically, we're going to try and do this, but, well, no. So, okay, well, what does it drive? What does it do? And by simply asking some questions and going around and talking to not only the owners of this machine, the people that drove it and told you when we could turn it off, we talked to the technicians that were actually doing the work, and getting everyone involved, we actually found other little windows to complete the project.
Yes, the technicians,
the scientists, and the managers.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that in identifying the problems and understanding the opportunities, that we do learn how to talk to all the people.
Yes. And we do. Well, I think rather than talking to all the people, we do the identification together.
Yes.
I think that's everyone, like, I know that example we talked about before, that was a biggie, and we were introducing it to people, and, and a little bit of common courtesy there as well. But together as a team, okay, so together as a team, we all agree that this is the problem that we need to work on. We have identified the problem that we're going to work on as a team.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're all in. I'm going to use this word. I used this before, violent agreement. That's how we're going to move forward.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. This is what we need to do, and that's all about habit one, mate. Identify.
Yeah. No, I certainly agree, and I think it's a really good outline of one of the key steps in having a good reliability team. And I'll say team because even if you've got one reliability engineer, or they're just it's a part of their role, getting some kind of reliability mindset, especially when you've got heavy machinery, or when you've got any kind of machinery.
Exactly.
Plant or equipment or infrastructure.
Yeah. All of it, like, if your machines, and we work in the industrial space, and everyone has machines. The machines are making the dollars.
Yeah.
Right. The people might be driving the machines, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, the machines are doing the work under the human's control. Every one of these people in this little circle of influence, right, have a vested interest in reliability.
Yeah.
They have to by default.
Yeah. And if they don't per se, it's probably because they don't understand why. It's a very easy thing to explain. It's a very easy thing in my mind to help people understand why you need a reliability, or have someone invested in reliability. And I say that just because you might get technicians that just work on things like, I don't know, we just got to work on it. It's like, yeah, but you want to make it as reliable as you can so it runs better and the thing produces, right?
And you're not getting called out at 3 o'clock in the morning.
You're not getting called out at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and fix it.
Exactly.
Because you don't want it. It's like, that's a good point.
So they got an interest in reliability.
They do. That's it. It's actually just pointing out to them that they do. And I often use the analogy of your motor vehicle. You care that your motor vehicle actually works, and it works well enough to get you to and from wherever you want to go, right? You have an invested interest in reliability because you make sure that you put fuel in your car. You make sure that you get it serviced regularly enough that it's got decent tires, and it's operating.
And I think last podcast we talked about me flying. Me as a pilot has a vested interest in reliability. Because the risk of something bad happening in that situation when you haven't got any more thrust, as in the engine, the worry
isn't working.
stops. The significantly rises, and and then you've got, if you're 8,000 feet up in the air and you've got no engine, it's only a matter of time before you've got to come down.
Come down. Yeah.
You're going to strike the ground at some point in time. So it's then up to you to strike the ground in a controlled sense or an uncontrolled sense. Now, we don't want to strike the ground in an uncontrolled sense. It usually ends bad. And so, me as an operator of an airplane has an interest in reliability, and we do stuff around that as well.
Yeah. So, I think it's just important that we do help everyone understand they do have an interest in the reliability, and for whoever's role it is, like if that is your role, but it's also your maintenance, you're also the maintenance manager, you're also the production manager, or even if you're a technician, even if you're an electrician in there, but you care so much about it, you can help drive this through. You can help be a part of it in the sense of being, and I'll just throw an example out there, and I've seen it at a couple of sites, but if you're an electrician, you actually care. Like, I want to make my job easier, right? I don't want to be going down and just going to breakdowns all the time and so forth. And I could do the planned maintenance. I could just tick all the boxes and follow the bits and pieces. I actually care enough, and I'm going to read through and go, well, actually, I think there's a problem with this. Yeah. And instead of just going to the manager and go, look, there's a problem with this, it needs to be redone, and expecting them to redo it, is to actually gather some information, identify the potential problem, have a chat with some people about it, and talk to the specialists, talk to other engineers, do some research. So if there's a planned maintenance task, you might look into some standards and some information, gather a little bit of information, talk to the managers, then offer, at least get them to identify that is a problem as well.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting it's had one, isn't it?
It is. Identify.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
But no matter who you are.
Yeah. So then you've got the opportunity, and you're most likely going to be given, like if you're that electrician that's actually going, and I've seen it, you guys go, hey, this is a potential problem, and I've talked to this, I've done this. The more information you sort of go with, and the more consensus you have from other people buy-in, the more likely you're going to get given a little project to go, hey, go and fix that. And you can walk away at the end of the day going, hey, I actually got to improve this, and improved our system, and improved my life because it made my job easier. And simpler. So, I think identifying is a magic term. I don't want to get carried away with going on to the other ones, because I keep thinking, okay, now we've got to identify, let's understand.
And what I've found is they sort of roll together. They'll progress one to the other is what I found from my experience. But we'll do that next time, mate. We'll get into the understand next time.
We will. So I hope you guys have got something from that. I hope it's really helped to sort of paint the picture of where reliability sits in organisations. And it doesn't matter whether like we said, there's all sorts of areas that it fits into, and whether you're a big plant or a small plant, or whether you're just a small operation itself, even a farm. Farmers and so forth need to rely on their tractors, need to rely on their pumps and all their bits, their equipment. So they still have an invested interest in this. And just understanding how you can look at this in a different sense. You can identify your problems and then go through to understanding and so forth, and questioning and decide with data, and then facilitating, which again we'll talk a lot more about. But I hope that you've got a good understanding of that. I hope that you start to see the importance of identifying, and the importance of including everyone in the process in identifying. And
links to where to get this thing from now, because it's changed.
Yes. You'll see some links come up soon on where to get the book, because the book is out. It's out globally now. You'll see some of them in the links below and in the show notes. But if you have any questions, certainly follow us, hit us up. Remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, give us feedback, give us comments. That always helps it get us out there. And remember that we're just here to share some information, knowledge, and that's what we enjoy doing. So thanks again, Seven. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll chat again next week for understanding. And hey, you're going to get a heads up on what we're doing for the next 5 weeks. How's this fair?
Yeah.
That's not usually how we roll.
No, that's right. We have fun.
We do. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you then.